You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Holloway, your host of the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Today we are shooting from the hip, so get ready for it. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about President Obama calling out President Trump for deploying troops to the border. We're also going to discuss my call in to the conservative circus with James T. Harris. Got some audio for you there. And, whole bunch more, including hashtag no platform and our growing alliance with the defenders of American exceptionalism. Stick around, because today we are definitely shooting from the hip.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
Incoming transmission.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
It's political malpractice. That's right, it's political malpractice. That's what Don Bongino is saying about the entire Democrat approach to the immigration crisis. We go to that audio real quick here.
Immigration is a political stunt because they're not serious about it. You know, it is perfectly fair and legitimate and a good thing in the United States that we can have an honest debate about the role of immigration in our economy, our culture, our society. Fair enough. But the Democrats have been entirely dishonest about this. So for Obama to suggest that President Trump making an effort to secure our borders is a stunt, while the Democrats support open borders, abolishing ICE, they will not get behind a border wall, relatively simple things, chain migration, all of these policies that can be discussed that the Democrats have no plan for them to have the gall again to suggest that this is somehow a political stunt trying to secure our border while thousands are proceeding north who we have not vetted. Again, it's just an act of political malpractice.
An act of political malpractice, according to Don Bongino on Fox. You can check that out on foxnews.com. I got news for you, Don. It gets even better. Yes, it does. It gets even better. In the news today, Obama mocks Trump, says sending troops to the border is a political stunt. Is coming in from Carlos Garcia, and actually this is a story, it's 2 days old now. But anyway, former President Barack Obama mocked President Trump for sending troops to the border in a speech on Friday intended to help Democrats get their vote out. Quote, a bunch of poor refugees 1,000 miles away. He called the ordering of troops to the border a political stunt and implied that there was no threat at all from the migrant caravans headed toward the United States. Okay. Rewind! Because, I tell you, this is what happened in my head when Obama said this, because in 2010, I remember, didn't he send 1,200 troops to the border to boost security along the U.S.-Mexico border? San Diego Union Tribune, May 25th, 2010. Folks, this is the problem with the mainstream media. and with President Obama and the left as a whole. They think we have no memory. They think we have absolutely zero long-term memory. 2010, President Barack Obama sent 1,200 National Guard troops to boost security at the border, preempting Republican plans to try to force votes on such a deployment. He requested $500 million for border protection and law enforcement activities, according to lawmakers and administration officials. This move comes along as chances for action on comprehensive immigration reform look increasingly small this election year. So, folks, 8 years ago, a newly minted President Barack Obama sent 1,200 troops to the Mexican border. Sent over 1,000 troops. Granted, now we're talking about like 5,000 troops that are getting deployed by President Trump. But one man's political stunt is another man's response to a public outcry, apparently. It's only a political stunt when a Republican does it. What's the game plan here, Mr. President? Oh, well, it wasn't a political stunt when I did it. It was completely a political stunt when you did it. You did it so you could preempt Congress before they did it. So you wouldn't look like a complete and total hole. Sorry, I had to jump on the censor button on that one. I'm not as quick as I used to be. Anyway, I kind of came out of the gate swinging this time because I had to take a couple of weeks off to welcome our little baby girl, Aloria, who is sleeping a couple of feet behind me here in her crib, into the world. Yeah, that's right. I kind of lost my recording space to my children because, being a dad, that happens. But yeah, it's good to be back. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network live from West Phoenix, Arizona. Today is Sunday, November the 4th, in the year of our Lord 2018. Want to wish my sister Madison a happy birthday, although I doubt she listens to this show. But that's what I'm coming back to. That's what I'm coming back to. I mean, we spent like 3 days in the hospital. It was nothing compared to when the twins were born. They were in the NICU for like 3 weeks. That was rough. But Aloria's birth, that's her name, Aloria, went very, very well. Mom's recovering nicely. So thank you, everybody, for your thoughts, prayers, and, social media love and all that. Speaking of social media, the HoloNet is now on MeWe, on MeWe.com. That is the new answer. The free speech answer to Facebook is MeWe. And I want to thank our friends over at Mojo50, Defenders of American Exceptionalism, for turning me on to that idea and getting me onto that site. You can find it under Matthew Holloway and find the group The HoloNet. The hashtag HoloNet or the pound HoloNet on MeWe. And I'm going to start carrying my shows and my content there as well. Speaking of places where you can find the HoloNet content, the alliance between the HoloNet and the Defenders of American Exceptionalism has deepened. I became an official shield bearer for the Defenders of American Exceptionalism and a contributor. So now the written work that you can already locate on theholonet.com, like a story we're going to review after this next break, about no platform, and all my other written work will now be available on doaeshow.com. That is doaeshow.com, where fans of the Defenders of American Exceptionalism will be able to talk about that. And this next story coming up here, hashtag no platform, a casualty list of the civil Cold War, where the first shots are being fired online and the deplatforming is continuing at a breakneck pace and in alarming numbers. We're going to tackle that right when we come back from this quick break. What I want to play for you guys over this break, because I don't really have an ad to plug in here, I had the opportunity on my drive home the other day to call into one of the local shows here in the Phoenix market on 550 KFYI. It's an iHeart radio station, and the HoloNet is carried on iHeart radio as well. Called into James T. Harris's Conservative Circus, and I probably slice and dice this up a little badly, but I wanted to play it for you because what James T. Harris was reviewing is in the Arizona Daily Independent, the ADI, who I've reached out to, by the way, and I'm looking to open up possible collaboration with, because that's a solid conservative publication out of Tucson. Go figure. Actually, I think it's Oro Valley, but I digress. They ran a story, an op-ed, where it was described that President Trump is the greatest ally Hispanics have had. Now, I am not a Hispanic. I'm not. I'm like German, Irish, Scottish, English. The only way you could possibly get any whiter than me is to be from Sweden. Thank you, Felix Kjellberg, a.k.a. PewDiePie. But I digress. I am not Hispanic. My late stepfather, Angel Luis Rodriguez Sepulveda Graciani. Of course, that gets shortened considerably here in the U.S. His friends called him Malo. He was a Puerto Rican man, and he was a Hispanic man, and he was a huge Trump fan, a huge Trump supporter. And what makes that interesting is he was completely apolitical, a non-voter for over 2 decades. And listen to that audio now. This is from James T. Harris's Conservative Circus, is my call-in from last week.
President Trump is the best ally Hispanics could ever want. Do you believe that?
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Conservative Circus with James T. Harris.
Another exclusive found on the pages of the Arizona Daily Independent. You have Steve Cortez. He said, Democrats want your vote. President Trump wants your potential. Wow. Democrats champion themselves as the party for Hispanics, but they don't back it up with policies that will actually help us. Instead, they just offer handouts and portray Republicans as racist, then arrogantly assume that we'll fall for their cynicism and their divisive ploys every time. When it comes to identity politics, Democrats play the game as well as anyone. But when it comes to giving people a leg up instead of a handout, President Trump is the man for the job. And notice, Mr. Cortez did not say Republican Party. He said President Trump. When the Hispanic unemployment reached a historic high in 2011, then businessman Donald Trump knew something had to change. After just 21 months in office, President Trump has done more for Hispanic Americans than any president in history. As a direct result of the president's pro-growth, pro-business agenda, Hispanic unemployment is now at its lowest rate ever recorded. It's exactly what Hispanics have been waiting for, clearing the path for an explosion of entrepreneurial ambition that had been suppressed by the Washington establishment for decades. When Democrats try to lure minority voters with handouts, they're really just holding them back from fulfilling their potential. In President Trump's economy, the opposite is happening. I happen to agree with this gentleman 100%. I'll tell you what, open up the phone lines. 602-260-5394. If you are an American of Hispanic descent, an American of Mexican descent, give me a call. 602-260-5394. The question is President Trump the best ally Hispanics could ever have? That is my question.
I need to figure out where to bottle some of the energy that James T. Harris has. I mean, that guy sounds excited about everything all the time. But I do think I deflate him a little bit. I might have hit him with a little bit of downer because, Pops passed away back this past July. But skipping right to my call in here, a little bit of an ugly cut. Sorry.
For unicorn, because I was looking at the same thing and came to the same conclusions. All right, let me go to Matt in Litchfield. Matt, welcome to the Conservative Circus.
James, how you doing?
Fantastic. Are you an American of Hispanic descent?
Nope, but my stepdad was, and he passed away in July.
Oh, I'm sorry for your loss.
No worries, man. But I did want to call in because he broke a 20-year-plus non-voting streak to vote for Donald Trump for president because he believed in his heart that Donald Trump was the biggest advocate for Hispanic Americans and for legal immigration And he broke that 20-plus year streak. This man was an entrepreneur, a business owner, a biker, and he was not involved politically at all. But he got out and he voted in 2016.
Because he was inspired by Donald Trump. He was inspired by what Donald Trump, the things that he was saying, and he believed in what he was promising.
Absolutely. And he always laughed at me because I'm the political one. I'm the blogger, I'm the podcaster and all that. But, he never was. But he got out there and he voted and he loved President Trump.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Matt. It's Stanford University study estimated that Hispanic-owned businesses could add an additional $1.4 trillion to the U.S. economy by catching up to the average revenues of other businesses.
I'm kind of glad that James, excuse me, that James actually stopped me right where he stopped me at, guys. I was getting a little emotional in the car. Yeah, my pops, Angel, passed away this past July. And as I said, extremely apolitical man. He would always laugh about, both sides just trying to screw you, and he tried to stay out of that kind of stuff. But he became energized by the Trump candidacy. And he got out there and he voted in 2016 for the first time in over 20 years. Because he actually felt the president was someone who could be relied upon, could be counted on to do the right thing for not just Hispanics, but for all Americans, and that he had the best possible solution for illegal immigration, which is legal immigration. Legal immigration. And that's why I wanted to call in to James T. Harris. That's why I wanted to put that out there and shine some light on the ADI, by the way. That's the Arizona Daily Independent. You can check them out, ArizonaDailyIndependent.com. I did not know this site existed until James T. Harris brought it up on the air, and apparently he's a great advocate of theirs. But they are relatively small. I believe they're based at a Tucson or Oro Valley area. But yeah, check them out. That's ArizonaDailyIndependent.com for people like me who are absolutely sick to the teeth of the Arizona Republic. We call it the Arizona Repugnant in my family. That's your classic Gannett rag. And we also have a couple of small print papers out here, but they don't really carry the big stories and the national stuff. So yeah, check that out. That's ArizonaDailyIndependent.com. Hashtag not a sponsor, but hey, I'm definitely looking. So I've already reached out to them. I know people are going to tell me get on the phone with them. But yeah, coming on back to it now. Obama sending troops is not a problem, but Trump is. I find that incredible. Give me your thoughts in the comments below on what you think about it. But from where I sit, no, we are not looking at a political stunt from President Trump. No more than we were looking at a political stunt from President Obama, who specifically did it to defuse the bomb of Congress going around him and directly ordering the troops to the border in 2010. And when it comes down to it, that's what we would be looking at alternatively. Is Congress sending troops rather than the president? And then in that situation, I would say we have a president who is in dereliction of his duties. So going back to theholonet.com, trending on the Holonet right now. If you're looking on screen there and on my Twitter, there's a nice picture of my pops. I tweeted out James T. Harris, and I thanked him for taking my call. But trending on theholonet.com right now, hashtag no platform is the opening salvo of the Cold Civil War, and here's the list of casualties so far. You can check this out on theholonet.com. I go on to list chronologically, some of the major players on the right and just in general, even if they're not political, that have been basically shut down, that have been so thoroughly deplatformed, sometimes just on Twitter, sometimes across multiple platforms like Facebook and Instagram, that the censorship is fairly obvious. And it began with Robert Stacey McCain back in February 2016, a right-leaning journalist. Milo Yiannopoulos back in July of 16, Anthony Cumia of Opie and Anthony fame, who got in trouble just for being Opie and Anthony, Carl Sargon of Akkad Benjamin. You hear me refer to Sargon of Akkad quite a bit on this show. That was back in August of 17. Roger Stone, like him or hate him, this guy's been a political mover and shaker for 20 years. He got hit with the ban hammer pretty early. James Alsop, Paul Golding, Jada Franson, and the entire Britain First Party got hit with the ban 18 December 2017. Now, I don't like the platform of the Britain First Party. I don't agree with Paul Golding and Jada Franson's methods. I think some of the things they've done are unfortunate and abhorrent, like breaking into a mosque during services and confronting an imam and things of that nature. These are all things where I see it and I shake my head and I go, this doesn't help anybody. This doesn't move any policy or or make any progress. This doesn't move anything forward. You're actually hurting your cause by being that type of person. But they were banned as well. And that's a pretty interesting step. Banning an entire political party, even if it's a small fringe party. Britain First was picking up some steam back in 17 to the point where President Trump actually retweeted them. And I think you'll find a lot of their policy points pretty agreeable. You'll find a few that are quite abhorrent and Islamophobic to an extreme, but there are some of them there where you got to scratch your head and go, they're not wrong. This is a group that calls out the grooming gangs and the rape gangs that are a serious issue in the UK today, but they went about it completely the wrong way. Tommy Robinson, same thing. This guy is a citizen journalist, a YouTuber from the UK. He had some bad history back there with the, I believe it was the EDL, the English Defense League, a group that he started that got substantially out of hand, started doing all the wrong things, getting into fights a la the Proud Boys. I think the Proud Boys probably picked up a few things from them. And he distanced himself from that group when it appeared that, violence was taking hold. I don't know if he did it soon enough, because his reputation certainly suffered. But he is a citizen journalist who is trying to cover a case, a rather large case, of this grooming, of these grooming gangs that are a significant issue in the countryside of the UK. And he was thrown in prison for it. So in the UK, you just asked Tommy Robinson. You can also ask Mark Meacham. I think it's Mark. Yeah, Mark Meacham, YouTube's Count Dankula. In the UK, it's not just the tech companies that are deplatforming people. It's the government. You get thrown in prison, man. You go to jail. Following Tommy Robinson, we have Owen Benjamin, who is a comedian. Also a regular on Louder with Crowder on CRTV. Also online, he's a piano player, so he has his website, Huge Pianist. And Alex Jones and InfoWars between 6 September 2018 and culminating the 22nd of October, just last month, when the final InfoWars side accounts were taken down off Twitter. And now, most recently, Gavin McInnes and his Proud Boys, who have been subject to a concerted banning effort between August and this Halloween, where the Proud Boys are being stripped directly out of Facebook and Instagram. I also have some recent information here coming from my good buddy Stephen Airy that there were many groups that have been hit with this ban that are moving on to other platforms and now just creating online personas in protest and online groups in protest. Apologize to everybody for the coughing. I'm still getting over my allergies this year. It's been a bit of a challenge. But yeah, it looks like, let's see here, Liberty Memes is another group that Facebook banned, and since it was dropped, tons of followers started off groups on Facebook, numbering each one. The group then moved to MeWe, and those that moved with it started making Facebook groups in protest. So Facebook right now is playing whack-a-mole with these guys, just knocking down every group that pops up to try to defeat the Liberty Memes movement there. So check it out on theholonet.com. You can also find it on doaeshow.com. But I end it with this. Gird yourselves, friends. They're going after much larger targets now. They're emboldened by their successes, and the battlefield belongs to them. They proved it this week when, in a concerted effort of web providers and pay services, they even took down Gab.com. Gab, which is a free speech alternative to Twitter. So now, not only is Silicon Valley going after conservatives and free speech advocates, when your prey goes to ground, leave no ground to go to. And with that, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get into some election news coming up here in Arizona. And we're also going to talk about the Supreme Court. Now following the Kavanaugh installment there, it appears that the Supreme Court has a pretty hefty decision on their hands. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around. All right, you're listening to HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. I am going to drop a little bit of wisdom on you today. We've made some big changes on the holonet.com, and you'll be able to find them right about down here in this region here, below all of our stories. And when you're reading a story on the holonet.com, boom, you've got our related products, which you can pick up. These are conservative tomes. These are the sources of our knowledge when it comes to the conservative movement here in the United States, and some of them are just good fun. You'll see here the Constitution of the State of Arizona. You can pick that up. Biopic on Ted Kennedy, Identity Crisis, the 2016 presidential campaign, Rules for Radicals Defeated, and Understanding the Arizona Constitution. Now, these are ads by Amazon. Full disclosure, when you purchase something off of Amazon.com on the HoloNet, that does go towards supporting our page, supporting our content. So please, make sure you check that out on the holonet.com. And now, here's the really cool part, our recommended reading list. Now, I posted this back on Facebook a while back, and here we have all the must-haves. The Constitution of the United States and the Federalist Papers, the Bible Promise Book, New World Translation of the Bible, and holy crap, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Jerry Doyle, Ann Coulter, Bill O'Reilly. There's a lot of Beck on here. I read a lot of his stuff. Dinesh D'Souza, Greg Gutfeld, and of course Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. If you want to pick up any of these recommended books, you can do that on the holonet.com/p/Matt's reading list, or just go to the holonet.com, click recommended reading. Finally, to take on a little tour here to the special offers section on the holonet.com. We have a free trial from Audible. You get 2 free audiobooks. You can start your free month of Amazon Prime Video. You can download free Kindle reading app and get $3 towards your ebooks, or start your free trial, your free 30-day trial of Amazon Prime. That's right, the Holonet is now a member of the Amazon affiliate program. So please, if you want to check out any of those great services, go to holonet.com, click special offers, and get that today. That's on the holonet.com. Now back to the show.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Oh, yes, indeed. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. Thank you for sticking around with us from beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. If you're following, you can follow us on Facebook.com/TheHoloNet, theholonet.lanterns.buzz, www.theholonet.com. Of course, find us on YouTube, BitChute, iHeart, Player.fm, Spotify, Google Play Music, anywhere great podcasts are found. And of course, we're right here on Spreaker and the Lanterns Media Network. So coming back now from the break, another story from the ADI. The U.S. Supreme Court is to consider the constitutionality of a World War I memorial. On Friday, the U.S. Supreme Court decided to take up the American Legion versus American Humanist Association and an associated case, both of which involve a World War I memorial in Bladensburg, Maryland, which the American Humanist Association wishes to uproot and destroy because it is in the shape of a cross. Quote, one group's agenda shouldn't diminish the sacrifice made by America's veterans and their families. The Supreme Court was right to take up this case, so it has the opportunity to affirm that the offended feelings of a passerby does not amount to a constitutional crisis. A passive monument like the Bladensburg Cross, which acknowledges our veterans and our nation's religious heritage, is not an establishment of religion, said Alliance Defending Freedom Senior Counsel David Cortman, which, popping out of the story here, is an assertion and an assessment that I completely agree with. There is nothing wrong with a World War I memorial, or any other war memorial for that matter, in the shape of a cross that acknowledges the supreme sacrifice that was given by our men and women in uniform, and makes an appeal to Almighty God for their souls. In July, the Arizona-based Alliance Defending Freedom filed a friend of the court brief with the Supreme Court in two cases on behalf of retired Major General Patrick Brady, a Medal of Honor recipient and one of the most decorated soldiers in American history, and 6 veterans groups representing thousands of living veterans. There are some who want to erase the memory of the service and sacrifice of those 49 fallen servicemen in Prince George's County, said Kelly Shackelford, president and CEO of First Liberty. If this monument is bulldozed to the ground, it's only a matter of time before the wrecking ball turns on Arlington National Cemetery and thousands of memorials like this one on the country. Now, I'm going to come right out with that. That might be a little bit of hyperbole, don't you think? I don't think this is going to threaten Arlington, because Arlington is federal property. So, yeah, I don't see them coming after Arlington National Cemetery or, you know, the soldiers' cemeteries all over the country. I don't see it quite going that far. But, you know, I've been wrong before. I mean, the whole thing is, you know, they came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't do anything. Then they came for the communists, but I wasn't a communist. And then they came for me. So, yeah, I say stop them here. I'm really interested to see what the Supreme Court does for this. I've been following cases like these for about 3-4 years now, where World War I memorials are being threatened because of their religiosity. You know, Texas is really big for this. Gigantic, huge crosses reaching out of the flatlands there into the sky. And what really burns me, what really bakes my biscuits here, is when these organizations like the Humanist Organization or Freedom from Religion Foundation, whatever that means, when they go after these tiny towns in the middle of nowhere, where one court case is enough to break their entire city budget, and they have to settle. And it's pure blackmail. It is a massive organization picking on a small town on behalf of, quote-unquote, someone in that town or someone who passed through that town and was offended. And it always cheers me when, you know, judges throw out these cases because there's no aggrieved party or because they can't prove injury. And that's what I would say here, is prove injury. Prove how this cross, this memorial to our World War I soldiers, is injurious to someone. Prove that it has deleterious effect. Prove that it is, in fact, establishing a religion. You can't. Let the dead rest. let their monuments stand to their memory, and just move on with your lives. Instead of being so offended, how about you just sit back and take a moment of grateful reverence for people who died for your right to be offended. Now coming up, just recent story came out here November 2nd as well. According to The Blaze, written actually by Glenn Beck himself, Project Veritas Action Fund released a shocking video Thursday that allegedly shows staffers for Texas Democratic Senate candidate Beto O'Rourke's campaign discussing the illegal use of campaign funds to help Honduran immigrants. Read more on this here, which takes us to ProjectVeritas.com. Now, there are a whole lot of allegedlys on here. The way this is written, this is a lot of CYA. So I approach these stories and I approach these items from Project Veritas very, very carefully. But here's this. I'll provide the link in the below. Quote, nobody needs to know. Beto campaign appears to illegally spend funds on supplies for caravan aliens. Campaign manager says, don't worry. Couple of quotes. I just hope nobody that's the wrong person finds out about this. It's effing happening. Don't ever repeat this. If you get caught in some kind of violation, like a $50,000 fine, for me, I can just ignore the rules and I'm like, F it. Either way, it's very disturbing information coming out of Texas from Project Veritas and bears some checking into. But as I said, when it comes to this Project Veritas stuff, always take it with a grain of salt. Realize that while I find their investigative journalism to be quite good, it's definitely that hit and run style of journalism. It's not quite gotcha, but it's definitely smash and grab. It's undercover stuff. So you always have to eye that with a suspicious glance, you know. This is the 8th release in a series Project Veritas Action Fund began publishing in October, exposing dishonesty and unethical conduct in elections across the country. And I've talked about them before, but if we have campaigns that are giving directly to the Honduran caravans and the refugees, quote unquote, you can't see me making the air quotes, but refugees and migrants coming over in the caravan. Which, God, we really just do need to call this an invasion already at this point, where we're talking about 4,000 people coming over. But you know, that's kind of kind of disconcerting. And the fact that the mainstream media doesn't want anything to do with the story tells you it's important. The Hondurans, yeah, I'm going to get some food right now, just like some stuff to drop off. How did they get through? Well, I think they accepted them as like asylum seekers, so I'm going to get some groceries and some blankets. Don't ever repeat this stuff, but like if we just say that we're buying food for a campaign event like Halloween events, that's not a horrible idea, but I didn't hear anything. We can't wait until tomorrow for that. We can wait until tomorrow for that, rather. Well, that's exactly the food we need, and now we'll just mark it as I do have dozens of block walkers using prepaid credit cards. So, FEC violations are a thing. And I tell you, local media is blowing up, according to Project Veritas's Twitter, according to James O'Keefe. And they're responding to the undercover story now. They severed ties with the campaign staffer, which prompted a media blitz in Florida. Yeah. Good times. So it's looking like this is coming apart for the Beto camp. But real quick, you know, we're just doing kind of a shoot from the hip episode here today. Let's check out RDP. Or realclearpolitics.com. See where the polls sit as of today. Because I'm telling you, In Arizona, it doesn't seem like it's in question anymore. I'm fairly certain we're looking at a Martha McSally victory. Now, I've been wrong before. I'd really hate to be wrong this time. But it feels like we're looking at a Martha McSally election for the Senate. And I think there's a couple of reasons for it. Now, Real Clear Politics is kind of my go-to for all of my polling information. I like Rasmussen. I've read a lot of Quinnipiac. OH Predictive is pretty big for the polls out here in Arizona. But check this out. So in the battle for the Senate right now, let's see here. Oh, my connection is not doing very well. Here we go. McSally versus Sinema. Shows Sinema at 50 and McSally at 47. Don't know how much I'm going to buy that. But last time I looked at it, it was inside 0.5 difference. Between the two of them. So let's see here. Governor's races, 18 Democrats to 21 Republicans, 11 toss-ups. Battle for the House, they're still saying 202 to the Democrats to 196 GOP with 37 toss-ups in the middle. I really do believe that we are going to see a much stronger Republican turnout than even they're anticipating at this point, because the electorate is energized. People are getting out and registering to vote. And it appears that Real Clear Politics is having some problems today. Here we go. I'm betting this website's very busy. So, the RCP average has Sinema up 1 point. That's inside margin of error for pretty much any and all polls that are out there. And that's according to the last poll was Trafalgar Group, which had 2.1 margin for error, 50 to 47. So Sinema's up 3 with a 2.1 margin for error. How insane is that? This has been such a nail-biter to watch, and I'm going to be covering it right here from Phoenix. I'll be live tweeting the entire thing. Fox News poll from 10:27 to 10:29 was a dead heat. Then, 10:30 to 11-1, Sinema up 3. Now Sinema's only up 1. Insanity. And a lot of this comes from President Trump's recent visit here to Arizona. Oh, you don't remember that one? That's where he said this.
The choice for every American could not be more clear than it is right now. Democrats produce mobs, Republicans produce jobs.
I told you that was going to be the soundbite, didn't I? I knew that was going to be the soundbite. Democrats produce mobs, Republicans produce jobs. Never had a question of it. Never had a question. And I really do think this is the part that's going to get her into the most trouble, is her whole bit on the Taliban.
I'm going to leave it. After 9/11, Martha McSally heroically led airstrikes against radical Islamic terrorists. Very successful. While Martha was bravely fighting the Taliban, Kirsten Sinema said she had no problems with Americans defecting from our country to join the Taliban. Seriously, how does that happen in Arizona? Explain that one to me. Sinema made these comments even as courageous American service members were giving their lives in the fight against enemy Taliban forces. Kirsten Sinema also embraced a left-wing radical who was convicted of providing material support to terrorists. This is what you want as your senator? I don't think so.
I honestly think that President Trump has her dead to rights on that one, and I think that is going to be the big defining split between Sinema supporters and McSally supporters is, do you feel that's okay? that, you have an exasperated cinema saying she doesn't care if somebody joins the Taliban. That's a heck of a thing to say. At the same time, American servicemen and women were over there dying. Kind of last thing I wanted to get to here was a former guest on the HoloNet podcast, Nicholas Sarwark, running for mayor of Phoenix. And he jumped on Twitter today, and he said in the last 6 years, the City Council of Phoenix gave $1.6 billion in property tax breaks to big developers, diverting $200 million from our public schools. And as a parent of 3 children in Phoenix public schools, his wife Valerie and he are pissed. We're going to go to that audio now from Nicholas Sarwark. Hang on just a sec.
Over the last 6 years, the City Council gave $1.6 billion in property tax breaks to big developers, diverting $200 million from our public schools. As parents of 3 children in Phoenix public schools, my wife Valerie and I are pissed. My opponents were eager to put on red shirts and march to the Capitol, but their votes to divert education funding to big developer profits showed their true colors. Every time the city gives out one of these deals, you pay the price, either in higher taxes or reduced city services. As your mayor, I will put a stop to these backroom deals for big developers paid for with your money. I'm Nicholas Sarwark, your candidate for mayor of Phoenix.
Yeah, that's good old Nicholas Sarwark, libertarian candidate for mayor in Phoenix. And in previous episodes of the HoloNet, I have come out and support and endorsed Nicholas Sarwark for mayor of Phoenix because I think they just set up, they propped up a Republican straw man with absolutely no hope of victory against an entrenched Democratic Party there. And I think Nicholas Sarwark could be the upset. And I think this is the best time in this nation's history for us to get serious about third parties. And, you don't have to have some pie-in-the-sky notion of electing a third-party president right out of the box, because a third-party president right now wouldn't do any good. Third-party president would likely get sandbagged by both sides in Congress and be a lame duck from the word go. No. This is the time to start advancing third parties in the down ballot. If you live in a place where there is no good Republican option, because that's a thing, where there's no good conservative Republican option, start looking around. Because a vote for a good Democrat is still a vote for a Democrat, but if we can start putting in some good third-party options, let's start putting in some good third-party options. I think it's time that I revisit and go back to our third-party problems segment, now that we're coming into the home stretch for the 2020. I think we need to seriously consider that going into this next electoral college election, this next presidential election in 2020. We need to start seriously considering, where are we as a nation in the two-party system? Is it time for a change? And is the 2020 presidential federal election something of enough note where we can organize that change in our municipal, county, state legislative, and possibly even congressional levels? So that's kind of the thought I want to leave you with today, and that I want to explore in a future episode of the HoloNet, is what is the American equivalent of UKIP, the UK Independence Party. Because UKIP, the purple wave, as it were, that has energized so many people in the UK, brought on board the likes of, Sargon of Akkad, Mark Meacham, other YouTubers. I think Milo's on there now. That have energized the free speech movement in the UK to step forward. Where is that energy here in the US? Because not everybody out there likes President Trump. Not everybody out there likes the establishment Republican Party. But there are plenty of people out there with conservative values and principles that are not being otherwise answered. And this is the time this intervening period between presidential campaigns is the time that you have to create. And furthermore, the time that you have to work within the establishment of the Republican Party. Check this out. I'm going to brand this right now. To make Republicans constitutionalists again. MRCA, Merca for short. That's right. We're going to reclaim that word, the pejorative that is used against conservatives by the left. Merca. Yeah, MRCA, make Republicans constitutionalist again, or even make Republicans conservative again. And we're going to explore that coming up in one of the next episodes of the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. So, wanted to leave you with that thought. As always, thank you for listening. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. From Phoenix, I'm Matt Holloway. Good night, everybody. This is Matt Holloway, and I hope you're enjoying our podcast so far. It's been exciting putting this together for you, and I'm looking forward to many more to come. I did want to let you know that in setting up the HoloNet and getting everything launched here, we've gone ahead and set up a page on Patreon.com. Now, if you haven't heard of Patreon, Patreon is a website that's similar to other crowdfunding sources that allows you to support on a month-to-month basis those sources, those artists, and those groups that you really care about and that you're passionate about. And I hope that we can ignite passion in a lot of people to become more involved in the political process, and also to become involved in the conversation and to keep that political dialogue alive. So I'd like to humbly ask you today to consider becoming a patron of the HoloNet on Patreon.com, and you can access that at Patreon.com/theHoloNet. We have various levels of patronage. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, which unlocks exclusive content for the Patreon community, such as a feed of patron-only content. Then you have a $5 option, which gives you behind-the-scenes access to blog about the different inspirations that we have. It'll give you access to patrons-only polling. And then we have a $10 option, which gives you a signed digital poster plus everything else. $20 option, which gives you name in the credits on the site, and all other rewards. And we even have a segment sponsor package available on Patreon, which is $125 a month, which entitles you and your business to a 60-second ad as a segment sponsor during the podcast, of course, subject to content approval. So if you would like to become a patron of the HoloNet, we would be greatly thankful to you, and it's going to go toward a solid cause of generating this sort of millennial constitutional conservative content that is so lacking in our media today. So thank you for your time, for your consideration, and for being a part of the HoloNet. Here we hold the line against the night, and the millennial conservative resistance begins here.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.